I literally tell them that I lost $50,000 in the stock market. If I knew what I know now, I would never have bought it. If I never bought it, I wouldn't be where I am today. I waited 39 years for this moment. My parents immigrated from Vietnam. They didn't have much. They didn't spend that much money. We didn't go on that many vacations. They just had to work and keep as much as they can. I understand why certain couples don't want kids, because you lose your identity a lot of times and you can't do whatever you want. Guess who holds the burden for that financially? It's their kids.
This is our first interview in this space in Lantern Lab. But yeah, thanks for coming in, Ray.
Of course.
So glad to have you. He's a special guest speaker for this month's event. And yeah, we've been longtime friends since college. And we're both kind of in the teaching world. You're definitely big on real estate investing, and you started this personal brand for yourself where you're coaching people in their wealth. And now you're a father. So you're doing a whole lot. So I really am grateful for your time here with us. And yeah, thank you again for being here.
Excited to be here. Thank you for thinking of me, first off, for your speaking event. It is Financial Literacy Month. And as you mentioned, I do teach financial literacy to middle school kids, 6th, 7th, 8th graders. We talk about financial literacy, investing, entrepreneurship. And we've known each other for a number of years, and we've always talked about the importance of financial literacy and learning how to invest for our youth and be able to set an example for them as well.
Absolutely. But I kind of want to go all the way to the beginning, because I know you didn't always start off as a teacher. And the teaching position, I feel like, is praised in some senses and also not, in other senses. So yeah, how or what inspired you to get in teaching, but also what has motivated you to stay in teaching?
So I've always wanted to be in finance and make a lot of money. That was my goal growing up. My dad followed the stock market. We would go straight to the finance section in the New York Times newspaper every single day and look at the stocks. So it was natural for me when I went to college to major financial economics. And I was able to get a job at the Big Four accounting firm, Ernst & Young, and I thought I was set for life. Within a year, I realized it wasn't for me. I realized that I found myself not wanting to wake up for work, wanting to call in sick, and not wanting to do this for 40 years. So New Year's Eve 2010, I ran into a college friend. His name's Wilbur. He was a teacher. He was happy. He made enough money to buy a place in Manhattan. Most importantly, he was happy. So I thought, I want to be happy. You gotta become a teacher. I remember when I was growing up, I never considered becoming a teacher because it's always, he didn't make money. I saw the way they dress, saw what cars they drove, just how they portrayed themselves. Like they were lower class. And I felt like I wanted to be able to make more money. So I never considered it. At this point, I wasn't happy. And I figured, can't be that bad. If I become a teacher, get my summers off, I get all these breaks, get out at 3 o'clock. So let me try something different. So I made that leap with my corporate job, went back to school, got my master's to become a teacher.
Nice. Now, it's been a while. You've been a teacher longer than me. So, and this is my 9th year as a teacher. So, yours definitely more than a decade. And what has motivated you to stay in the profession while, building such passionate kids, that I've seen like online and stuff?
Yeah. So, I started student teaching in fall 2010. I got full-time in September 2012. So this is about 14 years in my career, counting my studying years. For me, I just feel like it matters what I do. I make a difference. As corny as it sounds, that's really what I wanted, to have something I was passionate about and really made differences and change in people's lives. So I started off as a math teacher. I taught 6th, 7th grade math. And then I noticed that a lot of students in our school were not getting to specialized high schools. And in order to get into specialized high schools, you need to be at a high school level in math. And even our top honors kids were not there. So I pitched to my principal, hey, I want to bring math talent to the school. I want it to be an advanced math course. So she said, okay. I started the math talent. And within a couple of years, she actually wanted me to do something different. A program called Virtual Enterprise. Virtual Enterprise is a worldwide program where middle school kids and high school kids learn how to become entrepreneurs. They learn about interviews. They learn about resumes. They learn about marketing, human resources, administration, accounting, and finance, and graphic design, all things you need to start a company. At first, I was hesitant. I was like, I'm comfortable with what I'm doing, but she's my principal. She pushed it because I came from a corporate background. And honestly, I'm so glad. Virtual Enterprise has made my life so easy. They give me a full curriculum. They have events, they have trade shows. We just went to Jacob Javits Center last week. There was 400 booths from all around the world. People flew in from Indonesia, Austria, Hungary, South Korea, all around the country, just to be able to pitch their businesses to professionals. So it just made it really easy for me. And in addition, that program is a 2-year program. So I had to figure out what to do with 6th graders. My 6th graders, I decided to start with the stock market game. and learning about budgeting, saving. So I use resources like EverFi for financial literacy and budget and saving. And also the System Foundation's sponsor something called the stock market game. So kids get $100,000 in virtual money to buy and sell stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. So in all the 3 years that I have them, the goal is to get them immersed in financial literacy, understand, especially since most of the students in my school are first generation immigrant families, just to understand like saving is not the mindset that will get you to build wealth. It's really investing. So teaching them about investing in the stock market, teaching them about how to build businesses, things like that. In addition, I share my personal stories about my stock portfolio, my real estate. I mean, as you know, the last couple of weeks haven't been great for the stock market. So I literally tell them that I lost $50,000 today in the stock market. And I asked them, do you think I'm stressed? So some kids say yes, some kids say no, because you're rich. I was like, no, I'm not rich. But I tell them that I'm in it for the long run. I'm not trying to get rich today, tomorrow. It's a long-term game. And to show them the S&P 500 and just the trends over the last 56 years where as long as you keep investing, dollar cost average, monthly contributions, it generally works out. I also tell them that for investors, most people in general, the stock market is based off fear and greed. So for people that when the stock market tanks, a lot of people sell because they're scared. And I ask them, what do you think the wealthiest people do? They say they buy more. And I ask them why, and they say because it's cheaper. You're buying at a discount. So those principles are things I really push onto my students in class to try to get them in a certain mindset to not be short-term, but more long-term thinking.
I love that. Starting from middle school, what's that, like 11 years old?
Yeah, sixth graders are 11 turning 12.
Yeah, like pre-teens. And that's so necessary. And I love the transition, right? Like you started off as math, but it really evolved into just what your community needed. And that's huge. And definitely I always hear like, oh, I wish I learned, finance and all that back in school. So it's definitely great that, you're doing it at such a young age. And I know that you've also been speaking at colleges, right? So let's kind of transition from, share some great strategies for teachers, which I think one is to build off of programs that already exist, right? To not reinvent the wheel and, just really diving into what students are interested in and even going on trips. Like I love that you're taking them out. I know you've also brought your kids to the New York Stock Exchange.
Yeah, we actually got invited for the closing bell ceremony. That was something that Sipit Foundation invited us. It was a great experience. I had to pick 5 students. It was very tough to pick 5 students only. And of the 5, I had to pick 2 to actually go up and ring the bell. It was a great experience. My principal came, and it's just something that I never thought I'd ever be there. Like, even though I wasn't ringing the bell, I was part of the group that helped young teens or preteens go up there and have that experience, to be on the trading floor, to see where all the magic happens. That's really cool. I'm still kind of amazed that we did that, to be honest.
Yeah, because it's hard to get in there, to get on that floor. So that's impressive. But yeah, shifting now to, you're doing a lot of work for college students and, shifting more to the real estate investing side. Yeah, what would you say is the biggest challenge that you face as a real estate investor, and how do you overcome it?
I would say fear, specifically fear in starting. I think just with everyone. People have ideas. People say, I know this is a good idea. I know I should do this, but then they don't want to take that first leap. So the first leap is always the hardest thing. For me, my first leap, I guess there's some stages to it. So I wanted to get out of state real estate. I thought it was a great way to do it. At that point, I owned 2 properties in Brooklyn, one my primary and one my previous primary that I rented out. And one of my college friends said that, hey, I'm investing out of state. Like, I was like, cool, tell me about it. And he connected me with a turnkey company. So a turnkey company, they basically buy, they renovate, they put a tenant in there, a property manager in place, and you own it. And it's basically turnkey. You don't have to do anything. So I found that appealing because I didn't really have to do much. So I bought my first property in Ohio for $106,000. And that was very eye-opening for me to be able to buy something for $100,000. Living in New York City, you can't even get a piece of the corner for that price. So to me, that was like the leap. And I feel like it wasn't that big of a leap. It just kind of started me. But I always like to say that if I knew what I know now, I would never have bought it. If I never bought it, I wouldn't be where I am today. Because if I knew what I know now, I would realize that when they show me the spreadsheet, the analysis, they didn't take 3 things in consideration. Vacancy, capital expenditures, and maintenance. When you rent something, when the tenant leaves, you have to turn the property, you have to fix it up. There's time it takes for next person to come in. Those months or those weeks, you have to pay the mortgage, pay the bills. And then when something breaks, something leaks, you have to fix something, that's on you. That wasn't baked into that spreadsheet. So if I looked at a deal today, I would not buy it because those factors would make it negative cash flow. So I'd actually lose money every single month. But another reason what I learned to not buy is there's no forced appreciation in the front end. When you buy a turnkey, you can't raise the value of the property. Right now, I would prefer more distressed properties where I could renovate it, raise the value of it, and then get that forced appreciation like in the beginning and raise the value like that. So that's something I kind of learned over the years from experience.
Yeah, the turnkey companies do seem appealing. They do it all right. Like, have you ever seen a different one, I guess, that did actually do the underwriting correctly? Or are they all kind of like, hiding some stuff?
So I don't want to sound like they're vultures or anything, but they provide a service. They're basically a flipping company, right? They flip it to you and they say, hey, the systems are in place, you could take it over. The thing about buying things that are already renovated, you don't know what's going on behind the walls. So even if you'd have to really dig deep and do like a full gut renovation to really see what's behind there. So I personally wouldn't really trust someone else's work versus the work that my team does, right? That's just how I personally feel. Even if I wouldn't buy a house myself, I wouldn't want to buy something already done. I want to do it myself because I want to customize the way I want. So I don't want to, put a bad rap on turkey companies, but I would say to trust but verify. You could trust what they're saying, you trust what they're doing, but you want to verify. Do all your inspections, like everything needs to be done. And in fact, this property actually wasn't really that turnkey because when my tenant moved out, I had to renovate the kitchen. So I think I really just jumped the gun. I just wanted to buy something just to do that first thing.
Yeah.
And I could have just kept looking forever and I still wouldn't have bought today. So I'm still glad that I bought it, but I learned from that.
Right. Because that is a sort of smaller mistake to make, right? Only about 100K. So I guess with all your professions, you're doing a lot, whether business owner, real estate investor, teacher, dad, what has been the biggest reward of balancing all of that?
So first, having students come to you, whether it's in person or running into them or through social media, come to you after they graduate and thanking you and sharing their journey and their accomplishments. So I had a student that reached out to me a couple months ago and she said, hey, Mr. Tran, I just got an internship at a Big 4 accounting firm in accounting. I'm so happy. And she said that the reason why she got interested is because when she was in 8th grade, we would run the company, she was the CFO. And being a CFO, you run the accounting finance department. So I kind of see that as a little internship for you to see if it's something that you want to do. And she actually reached out to me throughout the interview process. Hey, should I do Big 4? Like, you were there. I was like, listen, like, they're going to work you, but it's a great experience, something really great to put on your resume. So when she got it and she shared with me, I was like, it felt amazing. It was just all worth it. There's no monetary gain in that, but just know that you made a difference in someone's life. You gave them the tools to be able to decide what they want to do in their professional career. It was great. In addition, last week when I went to the trade show, the Youth Business Summit by Virtual Enterprise, 2 students came to me as former students. And one of them is the CEO of her high school company. And then the other one was chief of marketing for his company. There were 2 students I taught in this program. So to see their maturation, their growth, I mean, one of them's name is Xavier. And I had him since 6th grade. He was just like a lack better word, not that pleasant in class. But when he did the pitch competition, he was actually pretty well spoken. So I'm really glad that he was put into that environment to kind of showcase a different thing. I feel like a lot of students, bad students or more difficult students, they could be a certain way in a core class. You put them in a more elective or more creative class, they could really flourish. Some students are bad at math, but they're amazing at graphic design. Some students are terrible at, ELA, but they're great with numbers. Like they could run a spreadsheet really well. So to be able to see those transformations, I think is the most rewarding thing so far.
Yeah, I love that. Definitely agree. Like we can't help everyone. We can't reach everyone. But every time there's even just one person that we can help, that makes a huge difference. So what would you say is, your son's pretty young right now.
16 months.
Yeah. When he is, I guess, a little bit older, what would you say is like the first money or mindset lesson you would teach him?
I would say delay gratification. So if he
That
wants...
setting?
Huh?
You're going to do that picking,
What picking?
I don't know if it's at the 1-year-old, like
1 year old picked the profession.
yeah.
We didn't do that.
One.
My wife was like, we're not doing that.
Uh,
But so when I say delayed gratification, so kids are always gonna want something. So let's say my son says he wants ice cream. So I was like, okay, you could have ice cream today, or you could not have ice cream, and then next week I'll give you 2 ice creams for the week. Or if he wants to buy a toy, I was all right. You only get 1 toy a week, so you could get a toy today and nothing for the next 6 days. Or if you could wait 3 weeks, I'll buy you 3 toys in 3 weeks. And I guess just to show them that if you're willing to wait and be patient, you'll be able to get rewarded more in the future. So that kind of goes into the investing strategy, right? Are you going to go for the short-term gain, the short-term satisfaction, or the long-term gain? I always like to say short-term sacrifice leads to long-term gains. And that's one thing that right off the bat, I want to be able to teach my son and any future kids I have.
Absolutely. And what would you say is a money sort of lesson or way of thinking that you had to unlearn?
I would say scarcity versus abundance mindset.
Mm.
I'm not going to lie. I grew up middle class. My dad, my mom they were great to me. And scarcity mindset as in, I thought I was believing in a win-win situation. But most of my life, it was they win and I win more. Because I felt like there wasn't enough to go around. So I need to be able to take more or make more money from that situation because there isn't enough. And what I realized was that mindset really shows a lot to people of who you are, right? So right now, my mindset is volt. So one of my business partners, we like to say OTS, off the strength. And we're willing to give value. And we want to be able to give more value to that person than they give to me. So they'll be able to understand and value the relationship and know that that's someone I want to work with. If there's someone that is willing to give more and get less, genuinely, all right, that sounds like a partner for me. So for me, when I see people that have a scarcity mindset, I tell them, there's enough in the world for everyone. Like if you want to be able to make more money from this one deal, sure, you could take more, but then in the future, you may not get a second deal. You may not get a third deal. If you want to take less in the first deal or take that loss instead of the person you're working with, there'll be more in the future. So just the mindset. And I don't blame them because especially people that are first gen or second gen immigrants, that's kind of how they grew up, right? Like my parents immigrated from Vietnam. They didn't have much. They didn't spend that much money. We didn't go on that many vacations. They just had to work and keep as much as they can. It's just a survival thing, right? So I think back, I don't think I could have lived the way they did because we buy what we want and need for the most part. Nothing was a need for them. Like they didn't get any of their wants. So just to understand that, and that's why I love what you're doing, working with first, second gen, immigrant families, because that mindset is so tough to break out of, especially if you grew up in that. And then to really be able to push it further, to take what you learn as a young adult to teach, your parents and your family members. It's a tough battle, but I think as long as you're taking small steps towards it, it's really something that's really rewarding.
Right. Because this is like a deeply rooted kind of way of thinking for generations. And now that we're in a different country, it's like, oh, we have this new way of thinking, like this more abundant mindset, because that's how cash flows around here. But yeah, right. It starts with kind of conversations with like this, with the younger generation. I think it helps that way, right? When it's not so much focused on us, but when it like relates to now to either the next generation or helping our older generation, and we can start to change our ways, is what I've noticed. Otherwise, if we're just focused on ourselves, it's a lot harder to get out of that way of thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I think about with my students in school, I tell them to bring everything we learn, talk to their parents. I'm very pro renting in New York City specifically. I prefer to rent than own my primary residence. And I told them that. So one of my students, she said, I told my mom, she thinks you're wrong, Mr. Tran. I was like, all right. I was like, bring me your numbers. Tell me how much you bought the house for, what your equities, what your mortgage payment. She brought everything in. We did a whole case study. And I was like, okay, this is how much you would have made if you invested into the stock market. This is how much you lost out on because you put all that money in down payment. And what we realized is that it's no one size fits all. I would say if you are willing to invest in other asset classes with the money you would have used on that down payment to buy the home, then you're probably going to make out more. But if you're not willing to invest, you think it's too risky in the stock market or anything else, and you don't want to invest anything, I was like, all right, go buy that house because at least you have it in something that appreciates. So it's really just a different mindset, to have. I mean, just like one example I think of, my dad passed away in 2013 and my mom decided to pay off the mortgage. And I told my mom, don't do it. Let's go invest that money. But she wanted to pay off that mortgage so she has a peace of mind that no mortgage, less expenses. And, you respect that. Everyone has their own opinions and viewpoints, but to understand both sides of it and to make the best educated decision is what I try to give people.
Yeah. I mean, we can always lay out the numbers, but right, emotions is always going to kind of override that, right? The rational thinking. But yeah, I think that's kind of common in immigrant families, right? Like needing that stability because like they took a lot to come over here, right? So they want to be stable once they're here. So I totally get it. But yeah, definitely it's nicer to work with the more growth minded and sort of numbers minded people. And that way we can actually grow more. How would you say you make time for self-care in such a busy schedule as yours, whether relating to, let's say, maybe cultural practices or just, things that you've adopted just by, being here?
Self-care to me is not having obligations and doing nothing. I love being able to do nothing. I time block. Everything is on my calendar. Before my son was born, I had calls all the time. I had different things to do. My wife said that I got to make time. So I schedule calls only for Mondays and Thursdays. No other days. I mean, there are extenuating circumstances or exceptions, but that's basically like what it is. So Tuesdays and Wednesdays, pretty much home. Tuesdays and Wednesdays for my wife to be able to go to her gym classes, things like that. Because as a stay-at-home mom, literally the hardest job. I can't do it. There's no way I could do it. And many households kind of look down upon it because it's not bringing in money. But
it's saving money.
Yeah, it's saving money on childcare, and
dollar saves a dollar earned.
You're literally stimulated the whole time. There's so much stimulation with a newborn, with a toddler. So just to give her a break is really important as well, and gives me alone time. I love having alone time with him because it's just me and him, no one else watching us.
The boys.
Yeah, it's just me and my guy, and literally there's changes all the time. My mom comes once a week and I always ask her, hey, what new things did you see that you did? And it's just really amazing to see. And he knows how to kiss. I say kissy, he gives me a kiss. Like, it feels amazing. Sometimes when he calls, then he runs to me and hugs me. I remember the first time I told him to come run to me and hug me, I went to the bathroom, my wife was showering, and I said, thank you. I waited 39 years for this moment. Thank you. And she's like, I know, you're lucky. So there's so many milestones being a father, and I want to be a father for a very, very long time. And it's just something that you don't really know, you don't understand true love, like love at first sight, until you hold your newborn in your hands and literally they need you for everything, and probably forever. And it's just so much responsibility, and I don't take it for granted. And one thing that I've realized that I never considered in becoming a father was not only being physically present, but being mentally present. I'm still working on to this day, but when when you're with your children and you're on your phone and you're watching TV, you may not realize it, but they realize. They understand that your intention isn't always there. So that's something that I'm constantly working on, especially with our couples therapists, to be physically and mentally present at all times when we're together.
I love that. Because you emphasize the need for boundaries, but I think it's definitely important to distinguish. There's physical boundaries and there's also mental boundaries. And setting both of those is part of self-care. Absolutely. And I love that you're sort of balancing responsibilities with your wife. So you both get baby time, you both get alone time and, wellness time. And yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not picturing like we have it all perfect or anything. It's all work in progress. And, she probably wants more time for herself. I mean, for me, I love my day job as a teacher because I get to make a difference. And honestly, I have a lot of freedom. I can go find time to work out. I can work on personal things. So for her, when she's with him, it's kind of hard to do things. He's running around now. So she's cooking, you have the kitchen gated off, but it's like, all right, what is he? He's making sounds, or he's crying, or he's yelling. Like, it's really tough. Like, being overstimulated, she uses that term a lot. So I would say, I could definitely do a better job of giving her more breaks, to give her more self-care, self-love time as well.
Well, I guess that's sort of a thing to work out with the baby too, right? Like I'm guessing there's nap times. Is those like generally scheduled also?
Generally, yes.
Okay, so that's good.
Yeah.
I assume that's a break for her.
Yeah. Then there's also a break where you want to do nothing versus taking that break to do something that you need to do, right? And you're with him all day. He naps. Sometimes he doesn't nap as long. And, parenting is roller coaster.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I always wanted to have kids. I never understood why certain couples didn't want kids. And I love my son and I wouldn't trade for anything. And now being a first-time father, I understand why certain couples don't want kids. Because you lose your identity a lot of times and you can't do whatever you want anymore. So certain people want to really value their personal time, doing more freedom. And I would say, having a child may not be for you. But so many people have kids and not want to make that sacrifice. They don't realize what it takes. And then maybe that child doesn't really have the best life. So I would say being a parent isn't just something that's a stepping stone. It's something you really have to consider whether you're ready to sacrifice and make that commitment for the next at least 18, 21 years of your life to be able to be like that man or that woman, that rock for your children.
No, absolutely. And that's why they say like, everything is kind of getting older, like where we're starting to start families and have babies older. And it's kind of better, right? That we kind of have more time to really know that this is the right decision. Because, right, it's a really selfless act to be able to grow this and raise this being.
Yeah, interesting you bring that up because I always thought I'd be married with kids in my mid-20s. And I didn't have my first child till 38 years old, turning 40 this year, which is crazy to me.
Ooh.
But having him later on in my life, I think it works for me because I felt like I did everything I wanted. There are obviously more things to do, but I traveled, went away every single school break. So I pretty much experienced everything that I wanted to do in life, right? If you have children earlier, you lose that in your 20s and 30s. But when your children older, so in your 40s, you'll live your 20s and 30s, which isn't so bad because your children are more grown up.
Yeah.
So just seeing both ends of that is really interesting because I have friends with kids with different ages. And I was like, I see the pros and cons of both ends. But just being a parent is such a big decision, such a big transition. That's something that can't be taken lightly.
Yeah, I'm getting my little dosage with Vienna. I know it's nowhere near the same. But it's
still taking care of you.
Yeah, because like when I travel, I have to think like, oh, who's going to watch her? Or like, how can I take her with me?
Dog boarding, who's going to watch him? Yep.
Well, I've never dog boarded her. But I sometimes am grateful when I don't bring her, right? Because it's sort of like a little break for me and I get to like do my own thing. And then generally I leave her with someone that has a dog too. So they can play as well, hopefully. So yeah, I feel it, right? It's like once you kind of have done all the fun stuff in your life, which I think is sort of necessary to do while you're younger, then it feels better when you're ready for the next chapter. Someone wanting to start their journey of generational wealth, right? We know kind of saving is huge. But what would you say is an important mindset, that maybe we haven't mentioned already, that would be good to have to start that journey?
So you're saying they're thinking about having a kid and how to set themselves up financially to have a kid.
To have wealth sort of last for generations.
Okay. I feel like most people don't say this, but I would say before you set your kids up, you have to set yourself up. I think too many parents want to fund their kids' college, their kids' retirement, but then they're not funded. So if a parent retires or worked until their 60s and 70s and they don't have enough money, they have to keep working and they get sick, guess who holds the burden for that financially? It's their kids. So I always believe that parents should set themselves up first, whether it's retirement accounts, investment properties, whatever it is. Make sure that you are set for retirement, whether it's retiring early or whatever the normal time is before you set your kids up. And I think that's very difficult for parents because most people are not set up for retirement. Most people are not financially independent. So they're saying, oh, I'm so far behind on my bills. I'm living paycheck to paycheck. I can't possibly get to that place. So I have to make sure my kids are good. And while I understand that, I feel like every single person, regardless of the situation, can make strides towards that, which is why I truly believe in looking for help, whether it's coaching, a mentor, or community, things like that, because there's always ways to improve your situation. Some people, they just spend too much money on things they don't need. Some people, they don't make enough active income. Or some people make enough active income, but they don't know how to invest it. So I would say just set yourself up before your kids is the most important thing.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yet it's hard, like you said.
Why are you laughing?
Because I'm just thinking it's such a hard problem to solve, right? Like everyone knows the answer, but it's just hard for, like we said before, it's hard for people to like do stuff for themselves first.
I would say the harder it is, the more important for you to tackle that, right? So get comfortable being, if it's something very difficult, you obviously know you have to get down to the root of the problem and really try to fix it, right? And I guess many people just live their life a certain way for so long that, oh, just take too much to do it. But if you're living in a financial place where you're living paycheck to paycheck, your kids see that, the kids feel that. So the kids see you living that way, they're naturally going to live the same way.
Yeah.
That's how their parents grow up. They learn everything from their parents. Even with a newborn, he picks up every little thing that I do. I mean, I think every time he comes down the play area, I close the doors. He says, close the door. I unplug the sound machine. He knows to unplug it. He can't do it, but he'll point at it. So we pick up every little thing. So I would say we have to set an example for our kids. So we have to get to a certain place, funding retirement, being financially stable to be able to get them to do the same thing as well.
Okay. All right. So what's one simple but effective strategy for someone to start that for themselves before they can do something similar for their child?
First thing, track your expenses. I would say the majority of people do not. And the reason why they do not track their expenses is because they're afraid of knowing. Great example. I was having a conversation with one of my best friends. I told him that we spend about $10,000 a month. He's like, that's crazy. I was like, okay. I sent him, these are my expenses. Does anything look out of order? He's like, maybe cut back on this, but it looks like you can't really drop it that much. It's okay. You track your expenses next month. He's like, all right, Ray, I'm going to do it. I'm going to track it. So halfway through the month, say, hey, how's it going? I stopped. So why'd you stop? Yeah, the numbers were getting too high. I was like, yeah, that's more reason why you should be tracking, right? Because people think, oh, I spent X amount on groceries, I spent X amount on dining out, I spent X amount on this. But if you don't actually track it, you don't know how much you really spent. So first and foremost, track your expenses. For me, I've been doing it since 2009 on Excel. I put it, every time I buy something, I put it in my notes on my phone. Every couple of days, I put it into my spreadsheet. My wife and I actually just started both doing it. It took me a long time to convince her. But end of last year, we started tracking our expenses. At the end of the month, we'll look at the categories. We'll cut back on what we spent too much on. So I think it's a great conversation. It's kind of like monthly finance dates. She hates it, but she's willing to do it. So I'll take that.
Okay. Right. Because it's tedious, right? Because one, you're adding this new task that you need to track it. And then two, you're also adding the task to remember to do it, every month or whatever. I aim to do it every week, but even some weeks I don't get to it.
You brush your teeth every day?
Yes.
All right. So when you were younger, you probably didn't want to brush your teeth. But there are times you just get into muscle memory, right?
Right. So would you say the Excel is sort of the easiest way to do it? Have you found maybe other, methods or apps that could be easier for people?
There's apps. I mean, people used to use Mint, and Mint went down.
Yeah.
Monarch Money. A lot of people use that.
Monarch
Money. Yeah. There's a lot of pay services. I mean, I have my own budgeting tracker that I put on my website that's free for anyone to download. Whenever you do it, you could use paper and pen. Whatever is easier for you.
I think my mom used to do that.
Yeah. Whatever is easiest for you. There's no right or wrong, as long as you do it. Right. You can argue whether you can be more efficient with it, but as long as you do it and you see it and you're able to, all right, this is my situation. Do I want to make a change? If you want to make a change, how do you make the change? Because some people may look at it and say, oh, yeah, I spend too much, but I want to live my life. I'm good with it, right? So some people, hey, wow, like I save $200 a month. I can't save $200 a month the rest of my life and live the life that I want for my kids. So then that could be the big, aha moment. Go like, I have to change something,
Right. People need to want to change so that if you want to improve, then you start by measuring it. Absolutely. I would say that's still something I'm working on doing that consistently. But I was recently listening to Ed Mylett. Do you know him? Where he was emphasizing tracking it even more, like daily, or even he does hourly. And I'm like, okay, let me start with a weekly first. But yeah, I've been using Quicken.
Okay.
That's been kind of convenient.
It's an app that you put it in?
It is an app downloaded to my laptop. It links with all my bank accounts and my investment accounts. And I think I maybe pay like $50 for the year.
Mm-hmm.
So that feels worth it to me. But I know like with Excel, right, but kind of manually entering each one, you're like more conscious of each expense.
True.
So I know that's helpful too. If you really want to know like, what
Yeah.
year.
I mean, if you look at the summary and you see the categories broken down, I mean, that's pretty good as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I track my net worth as well. Every month or two, I'll update it just to see like how we're doing. Very market dependent on how the market's going, but it's just something to know how much am I over leveraging, and how much debt do I have, how much good debt, how much bad debt, or just being aware is the most important thing.
Yep. Right. It starts with that. We've talked about your biggest challenge sort of in your professional life or as an investor. What would you say is your current big challenge that maybe Suamora could possibly support you with?
I'm going to start working with a sales coach to kind of to convert the leads into closings, but I guess a way to meet people that are willing to invest in themselves versus people that just want free things. I don't know if I'm explaining it or portraying it a certain way, but we go back to the scarcity versus abundance mindset. Right? Like, if someone could give you $50,000 in value, why would you not pay $10,000? You're still making $40,000, right? In that aspect. So it may be maybe the delivery is not portraying that, right? Or whatever it is. That's kind of a challenge that I'm going through. But did take 2 leads and close 2 of them a couple of days ago. So feel a little better about things, but there's always ways to improve, right?
Well, I mean, since you talk about scarcity versus abundance, have you ever thought about kind of gearing your content more to show people what it sounds like and looks like to have an abundant mindset?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think how we portray things, it's all about storytelling, right? You tell a story in a certain way. You could tell the same story, have 2 people tell the same story, and it'll come out different results. So it's just something that I'm constantly working on as well. I work with a speaker coach to work on my communication, how I portray things, how I storytell. So it's something that I'm avidly working on all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it could come through storytelling, but I think even having like more clear, like just examples, like it could be a video of like comparing and contrasting, like, oh, this is what someone with a scarcity mindset, might say to this deal or to this opportunity, and this is what an abundant mindset person kind of would do. There could be like, visuals of that, like carousels. It could be reels of that. I don't know. I feel like, because you talk about it a lot, and I feel like just people they don't even know like the term scarcity versus abundant. Like I just taught that to my finance kids. So it's really sort of, and like we said, Larry, we can take one concept and make it, look in a bunch of different ways, and people need that repetition, right? To constantly be exposed to that so they can feel more abundant and feel more ready to improve or whatever.
Yeah, definitely take that. Talk to my VA about curating it in a certain way. I like that.
Well, for our younger generation, right, we have a lot of, middle school students, high school students, college students in our community. And, for anyone looking to, let's say, get a job or even starting a business, what would be one piece of advice for them?
Educate yourself. So I get so many kids say, Mr. Tran, what do? I got this amount of money, I'm this age. Okay, read a book. So I have first book, Read Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I give them a week to read it. If they finish it, I'll talk to them. They don't, I'll never talk to them. Because I need to know you're committed, right? I need some skin in the game. So if you're able to read a couple hundred pages in a week, all right, you're motivated. And then listen to podcasts, part of education. And then most importantly, find mentors, find people that have done what you want to do. So if you're 12 years old and you want to become a lawyer, okay, first of all, why do you want to become a lawyer? I'd probably tell them, hey, can you write me a 3-page non-AI paper that tells you why you want to be a lawyer? And then I'll send that to one of my lawyer friends so they could read it. And they're like, are you interested in being a mentor? Are you interested in having a conversation with a student? So your paper has to be persuasive enough and show enough dedication for that professional who's busy to want to have a conversation. I always tell people love talking about what they do. They love talking about themselves. So I don't think it's hard to get a professional friend in any industry to mentor a kid or have a conversation or come to the class and we'll talk to them. So I'd say for the student to show their dedication by wanting to learn, being willing to do work. A lot of kids go, oh, that's true, I'm not going to write a paper. That's more work. All right, so I'm not going to help you.
Yeah.
You got to put more effort in,
Right.
So just testing them, see how much they're willing to put in.
Right, because they have to want to be able to help themselves first before they can get more help. Well, yeah, thank you again for all the great work you're doing and all the people that you're connecting, right? The younger generation with the more professional generation. So I know you are a coach yourself. How can our audience reach you, connect with you, work with you?
Yeah. So I'm my social media is rt.invest. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all those channels are out there. I'm also a real estate wealth coach for my own personal brand, RT Invest, but I'm also a real estate coach for Zen Coach University, where we offer a community, a mentorship and coaching program to be able to teach others how to build passive income through real estate with a full curriculum community.
Okay. So Zenco's is more real estate focused versus RT Invest would be more focused on what?
Wealth building in general, but I mean, everything kind of lumps in together. I would say that there's a lot of synergy between my personal brand and Coach University. So depending on what your needs and wants, schedule a time to talk and then see what the next step works for you.
Okay. Awesome. And you can also find him and us at Lantern in end of April, on April 29th, where we're going to talk a lot to possible investors as well as families, right? Looking to build generational wealth, personal wealth, but also wealth for the child. So super excited.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I mean, I love in-person events because there is a investment that you're coming out in person and taking time away from your family, your friends, whatever, to come in person. So that's already a first step in you choosing yourself and invest in yourself. So I really encourage you to come out, meet new people, kind of learn more concepts, and I'm looking forward to connecting, learning more about you.
Yay. Thank you.